Controlling, the net is empty, he throws it down, and in! He scored the goal! Martin Brodeur!
The hockey gods are Red Wing fans too, it appears. The Lightning have done it! They have done it! They have gone back to back!
Unbelievable.
Welcome back to another episode of Shut Your Five Hole and Listen, your not-so-average hockey podcast. I'm Muffy, the resident Red Wings fan.
And I'm Stephanie, your New Jersey Devils fan.
And we would like to start out by apologizing for our couple months hiatus. We did record a couple of episodes, but we ran into some editing issues, and then they were outdated, and we were frantic and decided, you know what, let's just take a step back and we will do an episode recap of the Stanley Cup playoffs and some other championships and news going on. So here we are.
Yeah, we never mean to leave you hanging, and if we do, it's for a good reason. But we've got lots of good stuff for you to plan in the off season, and we will get things going strong with the 2024-2025 season.
Crazy to think about that already.
Totally insane. So, Muffy, we have a new Stanley Cup winner.
We do. The Florida Panthers have won their first cup in franchise history.
They finally didn't choke.
What's incredible here is that the Panthers were up 3-0. The Oilers came back to make this a series and force a Game 7, but the Panthers made it happen in the end.
You know what? It's a very Florida Panthers win. Like, I feel like this team can never do anything easy. And it's almost like when they went up 3-0, it's like they had won it in their mind already. And it's like they needed that pressure. And to be honest, Edmonton put up a hell of a fight, but that last game, it looked like they didn't really have a lot much left in the tank. And for what that team has overcome in the entire season to get there, I mean, we were talking about the beginning of this season, and we were making fun of them.
Yeah, they could not find their groove. They were losing games left and right, and then they made it to the Cup final. That's pretty impressive in and of itself.
Yep. Did you envision this being the Stanley Cup final?
I did not. When we went through in the unaired episode, my bracket, I had a Carolina-Dallas final. And I will say, up until Edmonton beat Dallas in the Western Conference final, my Western half of my bracket was perfect.
That is impressive. My thoughts for the West crapped out when Edmonton beat Vancouver, but this whole again in the unaired episodes, I've been saying this was 1994 the entire time. I thought this was the Rangers Cup to lose, and to be honest, I really think in the East, the only team that could beat the Rangers was the Panthers, and not because they're better, just because they were hungrier, because they tasted it last year.
Mm-hmm. They also were like shapeshifters because they looked like a different team in every round. It's like they adapted their playing style to the team they were playing against to give themselves the best chance of success.
Yeah. I mean, I'm happy for the Panthers. I'm also happy for the state of Florida. It is where we live, and I know it sounds cheesy, and in any other circumstance, I would not really be wanting the Panthers to win. But my philosophy is when your team gets kicked out by someone in the playoffs, so in this case, the Panthers beat the Lightning in the first round, I usually want that team to win because I want to know I was beaten by the best. But on top of that, I wanted Florida to be hockey capital of the world.
I wanted the Panthers to win for an extremely petty reason. I did not want to hear for the next 10 plus years how Connor McDavid was the greatest of all time because he led the Oilers back from a 3-0 deficit. And I know that is totally petty, but I just did not want to hear that storyline for the rest of our lives.
Well, we also really should have known that the Edmonton Oilers were not going to win because Corey Perry's on their team. And
the Corey Perry curse.
The past 4 times Corey Perry has been to a Stanley Cup final, that team has lost, including the Tampa Bay Lightning. So,
yep. After beating him on the teams he was on 2 years prior, both years prior.
And the Corey Perry of it all, like, one, he said he's not retiring, so good for you, Corey Perry. But I am back to watching that man play, even at 39, when he is in front of that crease going, fucking Corey Perry. But it was interesting to see because Matthew Tkachuk, Hot Tkachuk, I finally learned his name.
Good, you won a cup. You probably should.
He won a cup. I should know his name. Was talking about how the player he admired and wanted to play like was Corey Perry. So it was kind of cool to see the two of them play that same style of instigator, but with skill. And I'm happy for the Tkachuks. So
yes.
Keith Tkachuk was crying. I couldn't handle it. Like
Brady looked like a little kid in the stands, like so excited to see everything unfolding. It was amazing.
Like, it was the Tkachuks. To me, the Tkachuks are the MVP. Like as a family, it was just so wholesome. Any other storylines from this finals that you really liked?
So this is just a fun fact that I really love. Is that Evan Rodriguez is going to be the very first Evan on the Stanley Cup. Like, first time this name will be engraved on the Stanley Cup. How cool is that?
That is really cool. But also, think about how many names are on the Stanley Cup. And it took to 2024 for the name Evan to be on the cup.
I mean, there's a lot of Sergeys and Vladimirs.
I think Bob is the number one name on the cup.
That's awesome.
I saw that somewhere. I don't remember where. So we'll find that for you. The other story I really liked that came out of this finals was Okposo, how this is definitely that was his last game. He's talked about retiring. He was on Buffalo for a really long time. They wanted him. He was their captain. They wanted to win a cup there. But he told a story about talking to his oldest son about how when he was his age, he was dreaming about being in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals and how his son got to be there when I was just like, all of the crying. I was like, I can't handle it. So I love that story. I love all the family stories. Oh, and we can't forget, Roberto Luongo finally got his cup.
Roberto Luongo finally got a cup. He may not have been a player, but he got his cup. He ate spaghetti out of it. It's a good day for Roberto.
And you know what? He was a big part of the Panthers of that era, which got the team to where they are today.
Yes.
And
well-deserved, no matter how he got it.
Exactly. And Paul Maurice, the coach. You can't.
Yes.
Can't forget that.
Paul Maurice, so long. It was such a long time coming.
Yeah. I just like him as a coach. I think he's a good guy. And, as we are comms people, I always love that he gives the reporters like time and attention and doesn't brush them off. So I love that too.
He has
Good
some
guy.
of the best post-game press conference sound bites too.
He does. He gives a great interview. I love a coach, a player, anyone in an organization that can give a good interview because it's part of the job, So should we talk about the Conn Smythe?
We should. It went to Connor McDavid this year, which has happened before where the team that lost the Stanley Cup has a player who wins the Conn Smythe, the MVP of the playoffs award. What were your thoughts on Connor not coming out to accept it?
I know it's a heat of the moment thing, and I know it was horribly emotionally draining. As a fan of the game, I would have liked to see him go out. Just because I think there were Oilers fans there. I think it would have been nice for them to see him. On the flip side, we're always talking about advocating for players' mental health and their well-being. And as much as I do love a soundbite, there are moments where it's probably not beneficial to you, your team, or your brand to be center stage. And then also seeing the after the series reports that he has an abdominal injury that's going to require surgery. But, just as a fan of the sport, in the moment, I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I kind of felt that way too. And especially because in the few instances that we have seen a player on the losing team win the Conn Smythe, they have come out in the past. But what I have seen online, which to play devil's advocate, is, you know, he was the captain of the team, like being the one in the locker room to console your team. Like that's the voice of your captain. So did it make more sense for him to be with his team to help build them back up from this loss, be with them to mourn the loss, or should he have accepted the trophy himself?
It would have taken him 2 seconds to come out, but I also agree, if you're not in the right mental space to do it, especially in a high emotional like environment like that, I could see not wanting to do it.
Gary Bettman looked very surprised that Connor McDavid did not come out.
He did, because usually Connor McDavid is also like the league's squeaky clean golden boy, and he does whatever he's told, quote unquote. And on the flip side of me as a fan wanting to see that, I could get that he is a human, and it was probably, that had to suck, and that would have taken like a lot, and he had already given so much, but Gary Bettman did look surprised.
I will say I saw a tweet, I think it was Sportsnet, showed on their broadcast it panned to McDavid's parents in the stand, and you could see his dad mouth, "He's not coming out, let's go." So they seem to be like, whatever, here we go.
And I get why they gave it to McDavid, because it's supposed to be about consistency throughout the entire playoffs. But I personally don't like when they give it to someone on the losing team, because I feel like it's a little bit of a slap in the face to the players who worked so hard, because there were players on the Panthers who worked just as hard and were just as consistent. In the moment, I was like, it should have gone to Bob, but honestly, Bob had to slip up those 3 games they lost.
He did.
But Barkov, Bennett, these guys, like Reinhart, these guys busted their ass. They worked hard and they were consistent. Like, you didn't have to give it to Connor McDavid. You gave him a consolation prize. Now I'm getting
exactly what it was.
Now I'm getting worked up and kind of seeing why he didn't come out. Like, I kind of would have been like, screw you. I wanted the cup. Like,
yeah.
But, so, but it was a great series. I mean, it was good TV. I sort of blame myself for it going to a game 7, because every time the 3 games they lost were the 3 games that I did not watch the game from the beginning.
Superstitions run deep.
Yeah, superstitious. So I was there. Game 7, start of the game. So what other moments during the entire playoff run that might have surprised you? What ones did you think were important?
Well, this is related adjacently. So the Toronto Maple Leafs knocked out, what was it, first round again?
First round again.
Yeah. So in this, I learned that the Toronto Maple Leafs have never won more than 2 rounds of playoff hockey. The last time they won the Stanley Cup, there were only 2 rounds. They have never gotten out or gotten past a 3rd round. Obviously not a 4th round. But that, to me, finding that little anecdote was shocking, but also made sense.
That is wild. It is wild when you think about it. Other moments that stood out to me, I really think, much like I thought the Rangers, it was their cup to lose in the East, I really thought it was Vancouver's to lose in the West. I thought that was a pivotal moment for Edmonton, beating that team, because that also went to game 7.
Yeah.
So that was pretty crazy.
Yeah, that is true. That was a very good series, and definitely one that was the turning point, I think, for Edmonton as well. The matchup that I had a hard time deciding with my bracket was the Winnipeg Jets and the Colorado Avalanche, because that one I could have seen going either way. They were both super strong teams, had really good seasons, and pretty well matched.
Yeah, they really were. Colorado was one of those teams that after they won their cup got decimated, really. So even though they recently won a cup, I feel like they are still, they're not in total rebuild, but they are definitely.
They don't have that same core.
Yeah, they don't have that same core and they don't have that same spark. And I feel like Winnipeg has been, over the course of seasons, gearing themselves up. So it was kind of like watching a team in the future that I feel like is going to be on the incline, matching up with a team that's a little bit on the decline, and they kind of met, and they're very evenly matched.
Yeah. We also had a lot of Canadian teams in the playoffs this year.
We did, which I thought was great.
I do, yes, because, I mean, it has been a long time since a Canadian team has won the cup, but this just felt like you could see all of the talent building there, and it probably won't be long before one does.
Yeah, and I will say, if it was anyone but the Panthers, I probably would have been rooting for the Oilers, just because I want Canada to get a cup.
And the Oilers hadn't won the cup since 1990, so...
Right. It's
34 years ago.
I'm kind of a brat, and the fact that we live in the hottest state in the United States and we are a hotbed for hockey just makes me laugh.
Yes.
We will get to this when we talk about some of the other championships, but like Florida is having a hockey moment.
Yes.
Yes. Last thing I want to talk about, though, before we move on from the Stanley Cup playoffs. It is a moment, the only game that our dear, dear Tampa Bay Lightning won. And you could not deny what it was like to have Sergachev come on the ice. You know, whether or not you are a Tampa Bay Lightning fan, what has happened to Sergachev with his injuries, with his leg coming back after a horrible injury, getting re-injured on the first game, it was a tough thing to watch. It was commendable that he was like vulnerable enough to just like cry on national television.
I was at that game and I teared up. Like, it was one of the most emotional videos that they showed of like his comeback from the injuries happening to the physical therapy he was doing to being there on the ice. It was just total pull at your heartstrings, made for TV movie type of moment.
And we're going to continue to get like the after playoffs injury reports. But to me, that just shows the dedication that these guys have and how much they all have each other's backs and how much they really like love and support each other. And it's going to sound really cheesy, but like sports, I feel like is like the one place where like guys are allowed to like love each other, which is so stupid. You can love each other outside of a sports team and not have it be a romantic relationship. So like, it's just nice to see. Well, now that we've talked about the men, should we talk about the women?
Absolutely. The PWHL Minnesota is the very first champions of the Walter Cup.
I'm not going to lie. In this instance, I'm glad it was one of the American teams.
It's funny because Minnesota was the last team to make it into the playoffs. Like, they were fighting for that final spot. Toronto selected them because the PWHL playoff format works that the number one seed gets to pick who they're going to play against. They picked Minnesota. I for sure thought this was going to be Toronto's cup to win. Like, I was fully in on like, the women are going to bring a cup to Toronto before the men do. But the fact that Minnesota then blew through them and blew through Boston to win the Walter Cup was very exciting.
And it just goes to show you anything can happen in the playoffs. That was another one that was such a great comeback story because it really did go up until like the final games to see who was going to make that last spot. And to be able to pull that out and to beat in the inaugural season, beat the best team in the league. Ooh, so good. It was so good.
So good. But then they've done something a little controversial since winning.
Yes,
the cup.
have. They have.
They fired their GM 2 days before the draft. And then they drafted someone kind of controversial.
And you said this to me not while we were recording. I think you're right. I think the GM did not want to draft this particular player because, and to be honest, I'm not saying their name because I think the things that they have said and posted are quite frankly should not be repeated. So I don't feel the need to give her a platform. I think the GM took a stand and the overall organization was like, we don't care. We think she's good. We want her. I think what's problematic and some of the things that she has said are not queer friendly. I think that's hard in a sport that has so many prominent queer athletes.
Yes, I do think we have to mention that based on her Twitter activity, it was very obvious that she was not super supportive of the LGBTQ community, which this league has been extremely supportive of the LGBTQ community because, let's be honest, half their players are represented in it. So that just kind of felt like an overall slap in the face, especially when they've had such an exciting year with so many records broken, so many people embracing the game, to then be like, it's fine. We're going to draft this player.
Yeah, it's an odd choice. Super odd choice. And the press releases and the things that the league was coming out about the GM being, I'm going to say she got quit.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't really explain anything, and it's more of a mystery than what happened with Corey Perry in Chicago. So,
yeah.
But they still won the cup, and I'm proud of them.
Me too. And I am excited to see what happens as the PWHL grows and we have another season upon us. We are supposed to find out names and logos and branding in August, so that will be exciting as well.
Yes. If we're not back in full swing on full episodes, maybe we'll do like a mini-sode or something about that. Because you know we're branding girls. So we got a few more championships to talk about.
Yes.
AHL championship this year went to the Hershey Bears again, back-to-back wins, which you love to see because the AHL is, is where the
feeder system
is the feeder system. It's the NHL players of tomorrow. So it's kind of cool to see that back-to-back wins.
Yes, and I love the Hershey Bears. Probably just because their name is awesome. Like, I just think of a big old chocolate bear.
Well, yeah, because Hershey chocolate. I like it. And then in the ECHL, again, back to Florida being the hockey capital of the world. The Florida Everblades, for the third time, won their championships.
Yes, which is super exciting, again, for the state of Florida. But here's one thing that I find a little sad with this is the Florida Everblades were part of the feeder system into the Florida Panthers. So they were the ECHL affiliate, which would feed into the AHL, which would then go to the NHL. And the fact that both the Florida Panthers and the Florida Everblades won this year, just kind of showing you how big that feeder system was and how strong that feeder system was, now makes me sad that the Florida Everblades have parted ways from the Florida Panthers.
Yes, but the only team that I feel like could ever replace them in any meaningful way for me would be if the Savannah Ghost Pirates became the Florida Panthers farm team, and that's what happened.
It is true. The ECHL affiliate of the Panthers is now the Ghost Pirates.
Because I went to college in Savannah, and also I just love a town that can't pick what its mascot's going to be when you're known for two things, so let's just put them together. Are we ghosts? Are we pirates? We're ghost pirates.
It's perfect. It's perfect. So that pretty much does our recap of the championships that have happened over the past couple of months. So let us know your thoughts. Did you think Connor McDavid should have come out or not? Do you think the PWHL GM was ousted? You can send us an email or you can drop a note on social. We'd love to hear your thoughts too.
Yeah, tell us what you think. And with that, end of period 1. We'll be back in just a bit.
So we are back with period 2. And this is typically our period where we talk about basic rules and things you should know if you're going to a game or watching a game and just getting introduced to the sport. Today, we're going to take a little bit of a twist on that because there's been a little bit of drama happening with the Arizona Coyotes, and we need to talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're underselling it a little bit with a little bit of drama. I mean, this was cataclysmic.
Yes. And basically, we're going to kind of break down a relocation versus an expansion team and how this blurs the lines of the two.
Yeah, and it makes for just weird feelings, I think, for everyone in the league except for people who live in the state of Utah.
Yes. So at the end of the season, and I mean literally the end of the regular season, the rumor mill started flying around that the Arizona Coyotes would be packing up and moving to Utah. And this came as a bit of a surprise because the NHL and Gary Bettman have been hard in on keeping a team in Arizona. So this was a total 180.
Yeah, it was odd and it felt weird because it kind of felt like, not like we haven't said something like this before, it kind of felt like Gary Bettman was talking out of both sides of his mouth.
So what makes this even more puzzling is that the ownership of the Arizona Coyotes was going to be able to maintain that branding, those records, basically everything about the team except for the players and the coaching staff. So what makes this particularly weird is that normally if you were going to relocate a franchise, everything goes with it. Players, coaches, records, everything. You may still change the branding, logo, name, all of that to fit with the new city you're going to, but it's still considered that same core team. And an example of this is the Atlanta Thrashers were based in Atlanta, but they ended up being relocated to Winnipeg and became the Winnipeg Jets. That Thrashers history came with them to Winnipeg. The other thing that's a little interesting about that is Winnipeg had a team before that actually ended up being relocated and becoming the Arizona Coyotes. And those Winnipeg stats from the first time around went with the Coyotes. So even when you start talking about the Winnipeg Jets of yesteryear, those stats technically aren't with the Winnipeg Jets of today. So the fact that the Arizona Coyotes brand, records, and everything would stay in Arizona, but everything else would move to Utah makes it feel like a relocation, but it's being treated a bit more like an expansion because the ownership of the Arizona Coyotes are maintaining those rights. And at the time that all of this was going down, they were told they could have a team again.
Right. And then the thing that usually, though, happens with an expansion, when there's new owners in a new city, there's an expansion draft. So what happens with an expansion draft, and we just went through this with the Seattle Kraken, we went through it with Vegas, the draft pulls from all of the teams in the league to create a brand new team. So this is like a weird hybrid thing where you're taking some of the mechanics of a relocation and you're taking some of the mechanics of an expansion to bring a team to Utah. And what it seems like is that the league is doing something special for some rich people in Utah.
And to add on to that with the expansion draft, Arizona was also told if they do bring a team back within the next 5 years, an expansion draft will be held. So now you are taking what would have been an existing franchise, moving those players, keeping the stats, but then bringing in a whole brand new team that's now basically starting from scratch again.
So it really is not setting up either team for success. And what's particularly uncomfortable if you were a Arizona Coyote player, now I guess a Utah, whatever their name will be, we'll find out soon, maybe by the time this pod comes out. As a professional athlete, there is always the chance that you could get traded, go to a new city, But these players didn't sign up to play in Utah. They signed up to play in Arizona. And there are definitely some players on that team that have contracts that state they can only go to certain teams, certain places. And since Utah didn't exist, Utah was not on that list, and they still had to honor that, which is wild to me. Wild.
I'm sure they will be thrilled to be playing in a state-of-the-art facility that is meant for professional level games as opposed to the college arena they were playing in previously. But they still looked defeated getting off that plane in Utah and walking into the arena. Fans were going crazy. Clearly, there's an appetite for this in Salt Lake City, but it felt so cringy. And worst of all, they did all of this the first week of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Like, way to be tone deaf.
Honestly, even if this was how this was going to go down, from a purely PR standpoint, they should have waited until the finals were over. This was a summer thing. And I know people are talking about they didn't want it to get in the way of the draft, sully the draft for these kids. But, like, let's be honest, this is not the NFL. No one's paying attention to the draft that much. This should have been a summer announcement. It would have taken the sting out of it. It would have given the players, it would have given the staff time to prepare and probably be a little bit more excited for those fans in Utah who have been wanting this. It's just the whole thing is weird.
Yes.
And I know the new owners have a track record of really doing right by sports in Utah. It's just, it just feels off.
Right. Like, you don't want to like them to start with because it's like they came in, threw money at a problem and said, we'll fix it all.
Basically, and I think that's what most NHL fans who do not live in Utah feel. I mean, if you, anecdotally, you just look at any post from this team on Instagram or X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, like, none of them are particularly positive.
No. I mean, we shared on our Instagram a photo of a Arizona Coyotes license plate that was personalized to say Utah no.
Yes. Yes. It's just a wild thing. So other things have happened, right?
Yes, the plot thickens. So on June 27th, there was supposed to be a land auction in Arizona. And this was where the new Coyotes arena and entertainment complex was going to go. The plan was that they were going to buy this land at auction and start building that arena while the team was currently playing at Mullet Arena, the college arena. And that was also part of the reason why Gary Bettman said, if you can make this happen and get everything up and running in 5 years, you can have a team again. Well, the Arizona Land Development Committee canceled that auction, ergo no land to buy to build an arena. Yeah, and like a week before, it was all of a sudden like, never mind, we're not going to do this. Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah, the whole thing is just, it's strange because I'm going to liken it to something that's going on where I live. So I live in St. Pete. The Tampa Bay Rays play in St. Pete. The Rays have been wanting to leave St. Pete for freaking ever. They ran out of options. There's, votes now on a whole new district, right? The difference here is because the Rays have treated St. Petians not so great, we haven't had this outpouring of oh my God, we need to keep this team. I mean, people want to keep it now because the district's going to be cool. But in Arizona, the fans and the people really loved this team. The team was good to their fans. It was just outside forces that were just nah. And what I've heard from people want to spend money on this team.
Right. And what I've heard from a lot of people too is that, because you would hear the outcrying of fan support for the team and everything. And then also on social, they'd be like, then why aren't you going to the game? There's always empty seats, blah, blah, blah. And the consensus was pretty much that the ownership was so shitty and charged such insane rates for tickets, people couldn't go to the games. Or you couldn't go as consistently, that's why fans weren't there.
any team that isn't doing great, the stands are not full.
Yes.
And this is not exclusive to hockey. This is pretty much every professional sports league. It's a little bit of a socialistic model where the teams that are winning pay for the teams that are not.
Pretty much.
Whoever said that, no, sir. Tickets are expensive, and when your team sucks, you're not going to shell it out.
It's true. It is true. I remember many empty stands at Raymond James Stadium before Tom Brady became the Bucs quarterback.
Oof, I'm a Devils fan, girl. After we lost those last cup. It has not been cute. Jack Hughes, I hope your surgery went well.
Well, to close this out, the most recent development is now the ownership has decided to call it quits. Now, not confirmed from, can we say the Coyotes organization? I guess it still exists, but
I guess, I don't know.
Many major news outlets and sports reporters have been saying that multiple sources have confirmed that the Coyotes will be no more.
Yeah, it's really just quite a shame.
It is.
But hopefully, maybe in a few years' time, who knows? Maybe Winnipeg will go back because you know what? No one shows up to those games either.
Which is sad because they're doing well.
I know.
What is there to do in Winnipeg?
I don't know.
No one has answered that question for me yet.
No. I would think it would be the hottest ticket in town.
Again, if we have anyone from Winnipeg listening, please tell me, what do you guys do if you're not going to hockey?
I mean,
I really want to know.
Don't know. I mean, if we can make Florida hockey work.
Yeah.
God, I don't know. It's just sad because their branding was great. Still great. Still great.
Well, on that note, I think we'll close out period 2 and we will come back with a very fun topic for period 3.
So we are back for period 3, and we are going to lighten the mood a little bit. So you may have seen either on social or somewhere on the internet that there are talks of a reality documentary style series going to be on Prime following, I think that it's like 10 players or something is what they said. So we decided that it would be fun for us to cast our own reality documentary series of who we would want to see on this show. And we found an article from BuzzFeed about the 14 reality show archetypes. So we use that as a base and to fill those. So I'm excited. Are you excited?
Me too. Yes. Shall we run down the BuzzFeed list?
Yeah, let's go like we'll go back and forth. So we won't give everyone like the full list. We'll just do the archetype. So the first archetype is the angry wild child. Who'd you pick?
Brad Marchand.
I picked Matt Rempe.
I use him later on.
Child. I use Brad Marchand later on. But I was like, I got hung up on the child. I was like, oh my God, that child just like, they literally just bring him out.
That is a good
people.
one. It is a good one.
But Brad Marchand is really good too.
I mean, I figure the licking.
Especially if you...
That's a little wild childish.
The licking, he was mic'd up, I think, either game 3 or game 4. And like it was just beep, 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 because he just kept dropping the F-bomb. I loved it. Okay, the second one. The one you know who's here to win. Mm-hmm. I picked Nikita Kucherov.
That is a good choice. I picked Jason Robertson from the Dallas Stars, especially following his All-Star Game interview where like everything was about like, we're going to go out there, we're going to win, we're going to bring our best. Like everything was, we are here to win.
I love it. I love it. We took 2 different approaches. Third archetype, the one with the catchphrase.
So it's not really a catchphrase, but it is a moment that will always be special to me. I picked Slater Cuckoo because of Naparoonski when he said that, you know, he is going to go take a little Naparoonski before the game. Again, not really a catchphrase, but it was just one of those moments for me that I have always remembered of the Tampa Bay Lightning Cup run.
I love that. So I took this not as someone who has an actual catchphrase, just someone who I could envision having a catchphrase at some point. So I picked Patty Maroon.
Yeah, I could see that too.
I mean, the big rig, he's just, you know, jolly, jovial, and then he'll hit you and throw you into the bench. It's perfect.
All right, type number 4, the one with a dark past. Who do you have?
I picked Corey Perry, given the scandal of it all this year.
I used Corey Perry on a different one. And I picked Alex Ovechkin for this one because I feel like there's some Russian mob ties, you know. Don't meet him on a street corner kind of thing.
That's fair. That's fair. The aspiring singer archetype.
So for this one, I picked PK Subban strictly for the reason that when he was traded from Montreal to the Nashville Predators, he was out singing Johnny Cash karaoke that night.
I forgot about that, and I feel that's very appropriate, and it makes me feel better that I also, for one of mine, picked a former player. I picked Jack Hughes because, you know, he's aspiring to be one of the big boys, and he also looks like he could be in an early 2000s boy band. I mean, the young girls think he is just, like, adorable with his, like, little 90s heartthrob haircut and his little sassy answers in his interview. The no BS pretty girl.
I picked Henrik Lundqvist.
Oh, I used him later. I picked Evander Kane because he has his own fashion
that's
line,
a good one.
and he's pretty.
It's a good one.
The midlife crisis.
This was where I put Corey Perry because I figured all of the acting up may be midlife crisis.
I picked Patrick Kane
I can see that.
because, you know,
Yep.
playing with the young guys. The arm candy. Who'd you pick?
For the life of me, could not pick someone.
See, this is where I picked Henrik Lundqvist.
All right. Yes, I can see that.
I was contemplating Hot Kachuk, but I picked him for somewhere else.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know why. I just, for whatever reason, could not wrap my head around this one. And maybe I was thinking too much reality TV, not enough hockey player, but I was like, I got no clue.
What sealed the deal for me on picking Henrik Lundqvist for this one was that my mother has finally, like, experienced the Henrik Lundqvist of it all. And apparently when my dad was watching one of the games, was like, who is that? He is beautiful. He is dressed so well. He's so eloquent. And I was like, oh, okay, I gotta pick the king for this one.
I like it.
The delusional douche or the dirty dude?
So for the delusional douche, I picked John Tavares. Not because I think he's a douchebag in real life, but the leaving the Islanders the way he did was kind of a douchebag move. I mean, everybody in the city wanted him to stay there. Even Bagel Boss was going to give him free bagels for life to re-sign with the Islanders. And he went to the Maple Leafs, I'm pretty sure in search of a cup, and that's where the delusion part comes in, because we all see how the playoffs go for the Maple Leafs every year.
There is also something going on this year's Maple Leafs that's just the vibes are off. The vibes are off. I also picked someone not because I necessarily think he's a douche, but this is the one that I picked Matthew Tkachuk for. Partly because the Florida Panthers just seem to never actually ever win a Stanley Cup, and I think he's delusional that they will.
You could have made this a duo one because I feel like the douche part you kind of get with Brady because he does run his mouth a lot.
He does. Brady runs his mouth more. Matthew hits you and pretends to be Corey Perry. He's like a beefier Corey Perry.
Yep.
The regular non-threatening bro.
I picked Dylan Larkin for this one.
Oh, Oh, that's a good one. He's so sweet.
Mm-hmm.
This is where I picked a duo.
Okay.
I picked Linus Ulmark and Jeremy Swayman.
It is the hugging.
It's the hugging. It's the hugging.
Number 11, the insufferable quirky girl. Who'd you pick?
This is where I picked Brad Marchand.
Okay. Yep.
Because, again, the licking was insufferable.
It is true. This is another one I drew a blank on. I feel like there are players who are insufferable, could not come up with one.
Well, insufferable not for being quirky. I think that was the part that... Who's the San Jose Sharks goalie that was asked?
Doesn't matter. Yeah, that would have been a good choice. I forget his name.
Yeah, we should learn his name because I do love that answer. The muscular competitor.
This is where I put Matt Rempe.
Oh, I picked Connor McDavid. He's just his head is so big.
I considered Phil Kessel for this one.
Oh, yes. Phil Kessel.
Mm-hmm. Judgmental goody two-shoes. Who you got?
I picked Connor Bedard.
Oh, okay.
He just seems like he thinks he's better than everybody else, and he hasn't proven that he is yet. But he also seems like squeaky clean because I don't eat fast food.
I picked Crybaby Crosby because of the crybabiness of it all. The like, oh God, he hit me. Send him to the box.
Well, this leads very well into the last one, which is the sob story. And I picked Sidney Crosby for that reason.
I picked the Arizona Coyotes as a team. Reference period 2.
That's a good answer.
Yep.
Well, this was fun.
It was fun.
And now we get to see who they actually cast. I heard a rumor that Quinn Hughes is one of them.
Oh, nice.
Apparently, I accidentally just fall into just like Hughes brother news all the time.
I like it.
They're in my algorithm, probably because of the Devils, and then I just get Quinn content every once in a while. But yeah, we'll definitely watch the show. Maybe we'll do bonus recap episodes.
Love it. Love it. Well, until next time, you can follow us on the social medias. We are on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, X/Twitter. Yeah, it's the same thing now. Threads. We have a Pinterest account with some of our content. So be sure you are following us. You can also find us on all of the major podcasting platforms.
And don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe if you like what you hear. It's how people find us. We are an independent podcast. So reviewing really helps. It's how people will know where we are. And yeah, 5-star reviews. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.